Hello everyone, and thanks for coming back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Eaglet 85. Featuring an F3 flight controller with an OSD, 10 amp BL-HELIAS ESC, blank 1104 7500 kV motors, 1.9 inch 5-bladed props, 600 TV line, 25 milliwatt 48 channel camera and VTX. Bottom plate measures just under 2 millimeters. Prop guard measures 1.5 millimeters. It does appear to be 85 millimeters. It weighs 68.1 grams. A JST for your battery connection, 20 gauge wire for your battery leads, soft mounts for your motors. I installed a 5-volt regulator. It comes with an extra set of props and a set of prop guard supports. Unfortunately, my initial experience with the Eaglet 85 wasn't very positive. You want to be very careful because I'm sure they don't have any sort of tension wrench or anything where they're mounting these and getting them tightened up just so, because I ended up going around and tightening them all up, and I kind of wondered, I've never soft mounted anything before, so I don't know how stiff it's supposed to be down. So I spent a lot of time just screwing these things in. And even in the flight footage, if you notice in the takeoff, it kind of has a vibration sound to it, kind of vibey. And that very well could be, but once you get it up in the air, it seemed to fly fine to me. You tell me if you think I still got some vibes to work out. I think that has to do with these noisy props, but we'll get back to those. I did lose a nut because of all the wobbles and vibrations I had initially. You'll see I have a little piece of nylon right there. These screws that go through the bottom, I don't know if it's tightly gone through the carbon fiber or this printed piece, and this is printed. You might be able to see the lines in it. Those screws stayed in even though the nut vibrated and fell right off. So they milled something here very, very tightly. I do wish they'd have used Loctite or nylon. You know, finding more metal bits, that's going to be more of a challenge. We can find a lot of nylon, but, you know, it looks like 2.5 millimeter stuff. So if you happen to, you know, lose your nut, you can pull it out and put nylon stuff back in there. And I do think it's going to hold up very well. And the durability of this is pretty good. I didn't break any of the struts. It just came with the two, and I haven't put them on yet. Obviously, they put a JST on here. We suffer from fail-safe still. That's why I included the 5-volt regulator. If you're wanting to increase your flight time, I would suggest getting some of the King Kong tri-blades. I think they're about this size, the little ones. Yeah, these, they're 1935 props. I bought a bunch of different ones, or a bunch of different colors. But anywho, that will, they don't have the notch in here, so if you find that your prop screws are too short, you may have to go another mil on those prop screws. But these will work out, and when we reduce blades, I don't think you'll lose much authority, but I do think you'll gain quite a bit of efficiency. I wouldn't be surprised if you get 30 or more seconds in your flight time, and I don't think it will fly all that much different. You may have to do some tuning with your PIDs, but overall, it shouldn't fly that much different. To get to the USB port, you are going to need to have a right angle adapter to get in there. And if I remember correctly, with my shaved down right angle adapter, I think it did go down between the props, if I remember correctly. Let's try it out now, right here, live on TV. Nope, doesn't look like it does. I'm wrong. So taking off the prop is going to be necessary unless your right angle adapter is smaller than mine. And there is a pretty good option out there for that. This one! This thing I really, really like. I've got two of them now. But this works in a lot smaller micros than this, but this is a perfect solution for what we're looking for. Goes right in there. Now we plug in here. We get a little red light right there. And we're all set for USB access. But that's only really for your initial setup, because this does have an OSD, so you can do your PID tuning or any changes. Most of the changes you can do directly through the Betaflight OSD. I'll put my PIDs on screen. I don't think it's perfect. I did fly on 3S almost exclusively, and I still had fail-safes on there. We've discussed that before with various theories on that. This vehicle suffers from them as well. And when you're looking at fail-safes, and I'll show you the video that's the most dramatic, is it just kind of locks into place and it decreases throttle and you just kind of falls to the ground. It doesn't tumble out of the air, it just kind of locks in place. And I think it decreases throttle kind of slowly. We've been seeing a lot of fail-safes recently, so I've got kind of attuned to that, the feel on the sticks and what it looks like in the video playback. This top part is also 3D printed out of, I believe, TPU and some sort of flexible bit. And it held up quite well. You do want to be careful with these screws that go in through the bottom, because obviously with a printed piece you don't want to just keep turning and turning, otherwise you're going to wear out that hole. Next thing you know, your canopy won't stay on, and your canopy is dependent upon your camera is dependent upon that canopy that protect it. And it does work out quite well, and you can see I've got my antenna through here and I've got my wires. You can't really see it now, but right below that little mess of wires, that's the button to change your bands and channel. So you don't have to take that off in order to change your VTX. I think if you want, this flies fine, and I'll let you judge for yourself on whether this is something you want. If you want something with prop guards that's probably going to keep you in the air a little bit more without buying a lot of props, this is a perfectly decent solution. I think the prop guards are done very well. I've had, I had all this fail-safe, so I had lots of crashes, and I haven't had any worse for the wear. On those, you notice that these two motors are mounted differently than those two. Maybe one person on the manufacturing line did these two and somebody else did those two. Who knows? Back to the quad. Sorry, got distracted. I think if you're willing to put a regulator on it, Or if you want to add a thicker gauge wire, I'd recommend 18 gauge and then going with an XT30. That might help. You may find you still have to do a 5-volt regulator. From my days in brushed micros, I use a lot of Pololu regulators. They're kind of expensive, so do your shopping around, look for regulators that meet your budget, and we'll do what you need to. Oftentimes what we need is a regulator that will, Bruce Simpson calls them buck boost regulators. I don't know what their official name is, but the basic gist is they will also boost to 5 volts, not just reduce to 5 volts. And in my case with this camera, I didn't have any problems with it browning out or anything. It was just my receiver and having fail-safes. Right at this moment, I'm not a huge fan of these motors, and maybe it's because I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to the soft mounting, and I'm not going about it the right way. I just felt like I had to work too much on the tune to get it to fly very well. And you may have a different experience. Yours could come out of the box and just have the right tension on the motors to where the soft mounting isn't too wobbly. I thought mine was too wobbly because I could see it wobbling in my fingers. I could feel it, and it felt like the screws might fall out of the bottom. I think you need to be aware that you may need to go around and tighten everything up, or at least make some adjustments. Don't take it out of the box and do some sort of building dive or something. You may end up not making it to the top or come tumbling down in a crash. While we're here, I do want to ask you one thing. You probably noticed, if you're a subscriber, that I recently changed out how the FPV footage is viewed. I've put a picture as the background, something I hope is of interest or fun or entertaining, at least a little bit. And the reason why I did that, and I had a discussion in the comments, was I was watching my son. I stumbled into my son, who was watching one of the videos, and he was watching the FPV flight, and he was watching it full screen on, I think it's like a 19-inch monitor, and it just looked terrible. And that occurred to me that if someone new is entering this hobby or looking to enter this hobby, that they might see that footage and think, my goodness, I don't want to do this. That looks horrible. I want to do the big mini quads because they have that HD footage, and they might be confused. So that was something I didn't want someone who might be new, who hasn't flown, who might be investigating it and doing their homework, to stumble onto one of the videos and go, geez, that footage is just terrible. I'm no longer interested in micros. I'm going to move on to the bigger ones because of that HD footage. Maybe that's just a completely wrong assessment. I looked through the YouTube analytics. They don't seem to give you any sort of analytics for are people watching it in theater mode, or they're watching it in small window mode, or you get device information, but you don't get, I think you may even get screen resolution, but that doesn't necessarily tell you they're watching at that resolution. So, sorry, I've droned on too long there. My question to you is, what do you think? Do you think it's better? Do you think it's worse? Are you indifferent? Do you understand why I might do it? And you think, yeah, it's probably good for the hobby that we continue to try to make the FPV footage look good. I don't want to confuse anybody out there, but I sure don't want them thinking that it's just a terrible visual experience flying FPV. Okay, that's it. Now we got to move on. They did a fair job of manufacturing this in a way to where the props aren't too close. You'll see I've got a few nicks, but when you get one of these, and pretty much every time you go down, you kind of have to look at it and look at it as it's square. And what I do is I'll just twist the top and hold on to the bottom to get the props kind of lined up to where they're all about even, and then I'll take off and fly again. That's all I have to say about the Eaglet 85. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave those in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.